All right, so hey, it's my first podcast. I don't even know what I'm doing out here. It's the Tom Hall, we'll call it the Tom Talk. We got Jacob Davenport and good buddy of mine, Joell Crawford. Really, this kind of the genesis of this whole idea today was Joell and I had just like I think an amazing summer, right? And it was like one for the books. Like I get tingles every time I think about it. So. You had obviously a different viewpoint than I did. Just take us back to that moment and the commitment that you made to me a year ago. I think it was like, this is, Joell's a basketball coach here in the Bay Area, and he has a very successful AAU program. And my son's played for him since sixth grade, and this is his senior year.
Yeah.
And we had this big conversation. He's like, hey, what do you want this year to look like? And I was just like, hey, I want him to have a memorable time, right? It was kind of like, hey, let's forget the accolades. Let's forget like how well he plays. I want him a great year.
Yeah.
And you made this commitment that it was, hey, just talk about it a little bit.
Well, I think for me, it's just when people come into the program at the beginning, it's just trying to figure out what they really want out of this. I just don't like wasting people's time. I don't like people wasting my time, especially once I started having kids. I started realizing time is very valuable. It's precious. So we don't play around with that anymore. So a year ago when I came to you, it was realizing that you were the longest tenured family in our program at that time.
Yeah.
And so I realized, I said, hey, how do I do the proper send-off? How do we do this right? How do you have a great time? How do you continue to talk about this to your grandchildren and for this just to be something that's generational? So each moment that passed by, especially during that high school season, because junior year was hard for him.
Yeah.
And just communicating with you, with him, I think one thing I just learned was just how do we get back to the fun?
Yeah.
How do we get back to him being a kid in the driveway, just falling in love with the game?
Yeah.
And I think that's why taking the time in March, making our teams, figuring out who were the right fits, I really took the time to make sure that was just carefully thought out. And when I made sure every personality who made the right fit, and when we got to that place of how do we make this memorable was, okay, who do you want to do this with? And that's when I started asking kids that question, like,
who do you want to rock with?
Who do you want to rock with? Like, this is your last one.
Yeah.
I don't care about talent level. I don't care about anything. Like, who do you want to go out there and go to war with? And your son got picked a lot of times because they realized, hey, he's ready to fight. Like, he'll fight anybody.
Anytime.
Anytime. He don't care how many stars are next to your name. He's coming after you because he's doing it.
Especially if you mess with a teammate. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that actually reminds me of when Grayson got pushed in the back, and that dude was, this dude was a monster. He had to be like 6'8", 230 and 240, big dude. Andres just went right up to him and was like, pushed him, like, you're not messing with my team. And I was like, hey, if you do that again, man, make sure your hands are up.
It was a scary moment.
It was a scary moment.
It was. But I thought that's really like who he is. And a lot of my kids are exactly how you just explained. And I'm so happy to create that memory in July with you guys, which was, it started off rocky. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, it was very rocky. I didn't know, but then injuries happened. People left, and then we got the addition of one of the kids.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's just what helped change our game and change our mentality big time.
So, just to kind of put this in perspective, Andres had been on this team for 6 years. And we won one championship, and it was a rinky-dink championship, right? It was like, nothing. We still got the picture of it because we did win, but, a lot of times we would make it to the Final Four, and we just couldn't close. Like, we just always had an issue closing. And then all of a sudden, we go down into a very high-level tournament. Like, we could have been winning, tournaments all the time, but we go to this very high-level tournament, and I'm like watching these kids play, and like if you didn't see the score, you would think we were losing, but then you look over and like, man, we are just out executing these guys. And it's like, talk a little bit about, like, I think you changed the tempo, you changed just the flow, and like what was going through your head as we kind of got to those like top games and how we were going to close out.
Well, so I think for me, what I did is in the month of May, we didn't do too well.
No.
So there was a lot of self-reflection. There was a lot of, I had to give myself feedback. I had to figure it out. I had to watch film over and over again and say, hey, man, that wasn't a good play. That wasn't a good call. Hey, you could have spoke to that person a different way. June was really helpful for me because then I went down to Section 7, which is over in Phoenix, Arizona. So there, I believe it's at the State Farm Stadium, and there's just nothing but high level talent. And I'm watching coaches coach these guys that are potential NBA players, and I'm seeing, okay, your posture, your mannerisms, the timing of what you're saying, it's just all different. Okay, and I started just taking notes. And then I would compare those notes with the game that I'd played in May. And so when I'm starting to look, I'm going, wow, this is why we're not playing well. I'm frantic. I'm thinking about the end and not being present in the moment. So once July hit and I knew what type of schedule I wanted for us, and for first weekend, it was still hard. Don't get that twisted. But like, we were still in games. We were still in games.
We only lost like, I think, an average of like 2-3 points, like except for that one bad loss. But I mean, we were in that,
and on a lot of them. And I think that's what the biggest thing for us was. But then that was the first weekend of July. The second weekend, which was the last live period where college coaches can see the kids, that was the moment where I really doubled down. Like, I made sure that I was in my room. I was watching film. I was taking more notes. And the crazy part is that we started the weekend and we lost that thing.
That first game.
Whew, we lost badly. It was bad.
I know. I was like, this is not how I want to go out.
It wasn't. But after that, that's when I knew everything was fine. And my demeanor is what helped the team stay solid and confident. And it was the way that I was speaking to the kids. Like, after that game, the guys were like, Coach, how you feeling? I said, I'm not tripping. Like, we got it. Tomorrow's a new day. One game at a time. One possession at a time. Like, and that's the way that I want these guys to live their life. It's just one moment at a time. It's all right. That's it.
Yeah, and that's just a good thing for life, right? It's like, if you hold all the weight of anything that happened like right before, whatever it is, you can't move forward, right? And if you can't move forward, then you can't win, right? You played basketball in high school as well, right, Jake?
Yeah, I played some basketball kind of all through high school.
All through high school.
Definitely. So
did you stop then?
I stopped maybe junior year, towards my end of my junior year, and I'm thinking about, like, even from a coach standpoint, I had to ask this question. Like, me and Trey talk about this dog mentality because we're talking about mental framework, right? Yep. You have talent. Some individuals are truly talented individuals from an athletic standpoint, basketball standpoint, things of those nature. Yeah. And then you have some kids that are really like dogs. You were talking about with your son. He's ready to, if deemed necessary, stand up for his fellow brother, right? If you had to pick between the dog mindset and the talent mindset,
that's a great question,
to take you to the end.
I think you need some talent no matter what.
I take a dog, because sometimes even when a dog closes his eyes, he's still going to bite. So regardless, I'll take that, because you can teach somebody how to do something. It's the want to do something is something that you can't give to every single person. And I think, like, that's regardless of whatever industry that you're in. I don't care if somebody is quote unquote talented. Do they really want this? Do they need it? You know, and I think, like, that's actually the bigger thing, is the need. There's people that really want it. It's just, you need this. Like, you don't get this, whatever might be a check, this shift. You can be working at McDonald's, and if you don't get the shift, like, your family doesn't eat. Okay, well, what you gonna do? You need it. You need it more than anybody else. So you're gonna make sure you know, hey, you're gonna fight for it. And I think, like, as long as we can all, that's what I will take over, because that's really what my program is. I don't have a ton of talent. I just create talented people because of the dog mentality that they have. That's what people kind of skip over and don't see that part. Like,
Andres wanted me to ask you one question, because you kind of led into it. What did you think when you first saw him on a basketball court in that tryout?
Oh, I thought he was awful. He was god awful. Oh, I didn't think he had a chance. But I think for me,
which I think is amazing, this journey. Like, what? Yeah, he had a tough time out there, but I mean, to see what he became is like, you made something out of nothing. And I mean, he had the want to, he had the desire, but I think, you know, more than anything is you gave him a level of confidence that I've never been able to give him, and my own child, which you guys both know as parents, like, that's probably the one thing you want for your kids to do, is go out into the world and be confident, right? Because if you feel if they're confident, then you can do anything, right? And so you gave him the greatest gift, which, like, I just feel like he's ready to go into the world because you provided that to him. And so, like, I gotta thank you for that, because that's just, like, as a dad, and you know, like, if I was able to do that for your kids, one day I would. But that's the greatest thing you could do for someone, is to provide that level of confidence. And so Andres, now you know you were awful,
Well,
but you're not bad anymore.
no.
I mean, you were out there, rocking with some of the best.
No, seriously. No, seriously. He was out there really shutting down some guys that have a bunch of offers. But I think for the confidence piece is, I just put myself in their shoes. I mean, I've been there where your confidence gets rocked, and I don't know what to do. And for some people had like their dads and stuff. And like for me, it's like I didn't have my dad. It was me, myself, and I. My mom could only do what she could. My grandmother could only do what she could. My aunt, but I had to figure it out myself. And I think for me, like when I am working with your kid, or anyone's child, like I always think about like, okay, like if you weren't here anymore, like how would you want me to represent you? And so for me, I coach from that perspective of like, okay, I love you. I need you to, I got your back, but push it. Like push yourself to the next level. Push yourself to be great, because if your pops was here, he would want that. You know what I mean? That's just carrying on the family lineage. Like when I tell the kids too, it's like you're not only representing what's on the front, but it's on the back, and then the back is your last name. Like make sure you represent that last name correctly. So I think like that's why I push confidence so much, because that's what every mom and dad would want for their kid.
See, if he was your coach, you'd be.
I'd be lighting the beam in Sacramento right now, man.
Yeah, you guys are both, parents, and this is a question I always think about is when you're doing things, when you're executing, like how much does thought comes into my kids are going to see this one day. I got to set a good example. Like I got every little thing that you do now is out to the world, right? So it's like things are recorded, like all the stuff that you just did, like all these films. Your daughter's going to see one day. Hey, you're going to be watching like reels of you walking off winning a championship, or they're also going to see some tough things. But maybe you get into arguments with certain kids. So like, do you ever think, and you as well as you're going out and all this stuff that you do on social media is going to be available for your daughter to see one day. Like, how do you guys like process that and think about that? Because I deal with it. It's funny. I record something. As soon as the first thing that happens is my wife would be like, what are those shoes? And then my daughter, it's like, why are you talking about that? Or whatever it is. So I think you have to be like very cognizant of how you're representing yourself and how your kids see you.
I think
they never forget anything.
But I think that's why I started, Infinite is.
But you didn't have kids then.
I didn't, but I always had it in the back of my mind is I didn't want it to call it Joell Crawford basketball.
Yeah.
I always wanted to call it Infinite because it actually wasn't even thinking about my kids. It was thinking about, honestly, like your child. Because, I mean, I'll put it in this perspective. It's hard to find a job during this job market. And it's really cool that if I can just pass it on and say, hey, one of my players, you can just have it.
Wow.
So that's why with the Infinite name, that was the beginning of that mindset, right? Then I had kids.
You guys hear that? Get your applications ready.
Yeah, no, seriously. Man, I'm finding coaches out there. So, but once I started having kids, that's when the image piece, yes, I think about, it was the financial piece that started to kick in. And I was like, okay, I got to think about what I'm going to do, how much I'm going to charge. Where am I truly going? How many days am I really
I got to get
gone?
my babies through college, right?
Yeah, I got to get my babies through college. Like that's really what, for me, that was the biggest thing. So then it's, not doing certain things in my life, and just cutting down on certain costs. Like a lot of that started happening when my kids got here.
How about you? You ever?
Yeah, I mean, what you made me think about is, I agree. What we show them is what they'll do. But I think a lot of times you have the simple example. Well, if your parents drink, you'll drink. If your dad wasn't successful, you'll be successful. That's kind of like a projection I see, right?
Interesting.
But I look, and I was going to ask you this personally, but since we're on the camera, I'll drop it. Like, I have a 5-year-old, so your kids are in a space in which the conversations are deeper.
Yeah.
Right? My daughter,
real
it's
ones.
It's negotiation. You want nothing but cake? Okay, clean that up.
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
I still end up cleaning that up, right?
I miss those days.
they're crazy. But I say, I ask this for you, I've seen in even how you communicate, like with your kid, very accountable and very actual, right? And that's where
you got to tell them facts.
Well, I don't know how factual or how sensitive I should be or factual I should be as I grow. But I think that one of the things that I guess you can walk away with, that's why I'm lining it up with my framework, mental framework, is see with your kids, you always told them the truth, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
So when you send them out the door, I've already told you the basic instructions, so you can't say you didn't know.
Yeah.
It may hurt your feelings.
I mean, there have been definitely times when I've told my older children, things that they probably didn't want to hear, but I was like, it's what everyone's thinking. And so I was like, I have to have the courage to tell you so that if certain things don't go for you a certain way, that there's a reason, right? It's like, hey, you didn't do what the world needs you to do, right? And so I think that was something I wished, my parents, were, they didn't, my dad was pretty honest when I was young, but my mom, she, always wanted me to feel good.
Right.
And so if you always want a person to feel good, then they don't know what failures, when it comes, you're like, well, why? I don't know. I don't like that feeling. Right. And so I think you can avoid a lot of that by just having your eyes wide open. Right. I learn from parenting every day, right? It's like all the people around that have kids, I think you got to take inputs from them. I learned a lot from you about parenting, like with my own child, like where I'm just like, oh man, he responds more to like certain things, versus I was trying to like push him another way. And I was like, that shit ain't working. I'm like, I got to go call Joell, it's like, Joell, can you talk to my son? Yeah. But so I think there's times in, places for being factual, but there's, you still got to love your kids, right?
Sensitive to them,
sensitive
right?
to like, if you say something that hurts their feelings, it's like, you got to, give them some love afterwards.
Yeah.
So my big question, because I've been thinking about this a lot, because you're the first coach that I think that I've been around in all the kids' sports and everything, just is that thought about mindset almost first. Mm-hmm. And so, everything was like skill. You got to get fast. You got to dribble, shoot more shots. You got to go run harder. You got to train harder. You had these kids journaling. You had them doing meditation. You had them thinking about their mindset before, so that when they stepped onto the court, whatever they did was just different. And which is why I think that focus enabled us to beat higher talented kids, right? Because they didn't have the mindset. So tell me, like, where did that idea come from? Because it was just not something I was used to seeing, but I think it's obviously caught on a lot more in mainstream society about having, mindfulness and, but teaching a young man that it's okay to be afraid. I think some of the workshops you did where, young boys, they want to like act alpha all the time and they want to say, hey, nothing's wrong. No, I'm good. I'm good. Everything's straight. Right. But then you do these things where they have the ability to kind of share their fears. And I think that's, anyways, I wanted to like really understand what your thought process was about that. Did you have an experience that, to you, or just like, what were you thinking?
Yeah. So for me, it was, I went to IMG my sophomore year. So I was going to De La Salle. I go to IMG, and my aunt, who has been amazing, stepped into that father figure role along with my mom and my grandmother. They sent me there for 3 weeks, and they got me a mindfulness coach. And that was the beginning of everything for me, where we started breaking down just the loss of my dad, my loss of my grandfather, like everything happening at such a young age, just losing a lot of close people.
And in some tough ways too.
Oh, in some tough ways. I mean, it was hard. It was hard. And I think that's what began the process. And then I think what doubled down the process was when I received a box that was full of my dad's articles and trophies. And then he had a journal in there. And in that journal,
I didn't even know this.
Yeah. So part of that journal is he would write down everything. I mean, there wasn't a single, I literally felt like I was in my dad's shoes reading this journal, and it documented every single thing that he did.
And how old were you when he passed away?
I was 8, about to turn 9. So yeah. So, but that was, honestly, to this day, I think that was supposed to be part of my story. And I think, I believe he's with me every single moment, every single day. Like, I don't think he's left me at any moment. Because there's just moments where I felt like I shouldn't be here anymore. And I felt like he had my back and just pulled me from that and said, no, I got you. Don't trip. Or I'm gonna get in front of this. Or I'm gonna make you go a little bit to the left, an inch over. So it's like, it's weird how all life is kind of played out. But that was really the beginning. And then to then hear later on in life, and to finding articles online about, him being in the NBA, him playing, him just doing a lot of these things, and him being a great player over at Reardon, I think that was what started to make me think, I wonder if this journaling that he did, and plus his greatness, I wonder if that goes hand in hand. So then when I started getting these kids and I started making this program, I go, okay, let me try this AAU program. Let me Let me make sure that mindfulness is number one. Let's make sure journaling is number one. Let's see if that makes a difference. And in 100%, it has, because it's brain dumping. So every anxiety, every single thing that's going on, you just put it on a piece of paper. People just feel a million times better.
And it doesn't even have to do with sports, right? This is
in general.
Just in general, right?
Oh my goodness.
Do you practice journaling?
Yeah, it's like an outlet.
You do?
Yeah. Well, you guys are making me feel like I'm in therapy right now. So I'm like, keep going.
Keep going.
I'm ready to vent. Like, all right, is it my turn to tell you what happened? You're not going to believe me.
You can go next.
Sure. I like
but
that.
No, so it's interesting when you talk about your dad, because now, I mean, I know we had that long conversation about that, and it's just, I mean, it's very sad for you, but I think the gift that you gave out of this is being a father figure to so many. And I think you losing your dad, and now it's like you are just, all those kids love you like a dad. And so, like, do you feel like some sort of like symbiotic, like recapturing of that loss, like through the ability to get that love?
I'll take you another step. Before he even passed away, my aunt told me about 2 years ago, everything that I'm doing today is exactly what he was already starting to do.
Wow.
Before he passed away. And all I did was just like 10 times it. Like, it was crazy. I just multiplied this thing. And so, like, it was already a part of the whole path. So that's the reason why when I said he's been with me the whole way, like, I didn't know he was giving back, doing any of the nonprofit work. He was working with the Boys and Girls Club. He was just working with other people that were just troubled youth. And so for me to be a part of Seneca for 5 years and to work with the troubled youth, helping these kids try to be in these school systems, then starting a nonprofit, and then starting Infinite, like, all these things coming together, it was like, dang, like, dude, are you still here? Like, are you really helping me out here? Like, you really got my back? And so, so I think, like, that's the symbolism, is just, I'm just taking what he started, and I just kept taking it to the next level.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good for the kids just in general to be able to, like, have that outlet, and to even think about it, because it's not something I even knew, like, about, like, therapy or, all that, that all the past, actually can weigh on you, and all those feelings of anxiety. It's like something I lived with for like 15 years. And I found a lot of outlet through, like, writing down. It's like, it's funny. I'll write in my phone, just like how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling anxious. And it's funny, you'll go back and look at those feelings and you're like, man, I was on some shit that day. But you also realize a lot of those fears are just, fears, and you just have to get them out. Right. And whatever it is, you got to face it no matter what. It doesn't change. The fear doesn't change the situation, right? It's just a feeling around the idea of something that could happen. If the thing happens, you got to deal with it anyways. So having the fear of it it's not changing the outcome. It's just putting more stress onto your body.
I'll even take it to another level of thinking about this way. This is something for the room to just think about, is what takes more energy, to be negative or to be positive? And the reason I would say that is because negativity honestly, it takes more energy, because you have to be more creative about your fear. You have to create scenarios. Fear, for instance, are different scenarios that come in your mind.
Head. Yeah.
So you have to think it, you have to feel it.
What if this happens? What if that happens?
Positivity is more transparent, more honest. It's more gut feeling. Your gut doesn't take to listen to your gut doesn't take a lot of energy. You just have to stop whatever you're doing around this world, stop for a second, and then truly listen. But negativity, that takes a lot of energy. Yeah. From writing a comment to just trying to be rude to somebody, yelling takes a bunch of energy. Like, being angry, all those things that you think about that can go into that category. If you can stay away from that and not give that the energy,
you just have so much more energy for productive things.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you have more energy for resilience, more importantly.
Resilience. That's, I think the other thing that you've built in your program is resiliency. I think, these kids, they get knocked down, but they always get back up. They always think they have a chance. Like, they don't beat themselves up. Is that something that you coach, or is it just something that you feel that just comes out in?
I think it just comes out, man. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I'm a weirdo. I think I can do anything.
I mean, that's the right attitude, because I think it's right over there on that board. Trey, what does that say?
The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's what you're saying is that if you're crazy enough to think you can do everything, you can, and that's kind of how I felt. Like, I was just like, I'm gonna go do these big things, right? And everyone's just like, oh man, you can't do that. You're born this way. You didn't go to the right school, all this other stuff, and you just got to, like, just really having unbelievable like confidence in yourself that, hey, if I put my mind into it, I can do it. So
Yeah, and you might not think this, but like just the conversations we've had and just hearing what you have done, that kind of fueled my craziness more because
Really?
I'm like, okay, hold up, like we were at the same starting line, like hold on, time out, and now you over here, no, you ain't leaving me in the dust. Like it was that feeling. Like once we started to build this relationship and we started to grow, it was just like, nah, Tom, I'm not gonna be back here. Now I'm about to be up there with you, dog. Like I got this.
Yeah,
and it was just because of the way
let's all
that
run
you
together.
did things. Yeah, and I loved it because you've always pushed people to think outside the box, and that was something that for me, like that was pivotal. And the timeliness of this is I just told somebody today about you, just like, hey, like if I never had this conversation with this man, I would have never changed marketing schemes, pricing, just paying attention to my
I think we drew it up on a little whiteboard.
Oh my gosh!
In your kitchen.
Oh yeah, my little tiny little condo.
Yeah.
And you were like, dude, if you want to get here, you got to do X, Y, and Z. You got to do this. And I'm just like, what, man? Whatever. And I remember you left that day. I was cooking hella mad. I was like, bro, get out of my house. Like, you trying to tell me what to do? I'm a grown man. What's wrong with you? But then when I really calmed down and I thought about it, I was like, he kind of right. Like, if I did this, I could run this. Okay, but if I did this, I got to apply or
It's funny.
add this
I
service.
told Allie when I got home, I was like, I don't think he liked what I had to say.
I didn't. I'll be real with you. Like, I really did not. But it was
Like, why trying to
helpful.
break it? It's not broken, but I was looking at it and I'm just like, man, I was like, you were too good to be where you were. And so sometimes you talk about, telling the truth. I had to tell him the truth. I was like, Joell, you're the best. Act like it. And you were the best, but you were acting like, hey man, I'm supposed to be in this, condo. I'm supposed to just, be like struggling through, financially or whatever. And it's like, nah, man, you're a king, man. You gotta, go out and act like it.
Yeah, and that's when that was the difference between I started to learn that day from confidence and ego. And I think like when we kind of tie things back and you keep asking me about just the program and stuff, we're confident, but we're not egotistical.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you just know about my kids. And the reason I say that is because I can have a senior be working out in the same group with a fourth grader and they have no ego behind it because they go, no, man, like I'm going to show you how to get it done. I'm going to show you like it's cool to give back. It's cool to be in this thing with you. And like we're going to be in the trenches together because the kid will remember that. That fourth grader will be like, dang, I got to work out with a high schooler. It's like working with an NBA player. Like for them, they're like, damn, this is dope. And I love when my kids do that because it shows like they have the confidence in themselves. They have so much self-confidence of like, I don't care what y'all think. Like I know I'm home. I know I can be myself. I know I can do whatever I want to do. And I think for me, that was one of the things that you taught me. Like you have no ego around anything you do. You're just hella confident. And I love that about you. And you make that just such a positive aura around the people. Like I felt it through you. I felt it through him. Like you can just feel like, dang, y'all have been around Tom long enough where y'all got your own little confidence that glows. And I love that because that's what the world really needs is people like y'all and people like yourself. Just keep sharing that light, that confidence.
That light, that confidence. Yeah, I mean, funny, the moment I met, actually both of these gentlemen, I just had like, I was like, all right, I mess with you guys. Like, and I loved the spirit. I loved your guys' energy. I loved, the energy behind like, I want to do something great. And then it's just like, all right, well, we all want to do, everyone in this room wants to do something and be something great. And it's like, everyone's gonna have their own path and their own journey. And it's like, it's just nice to have a good like person that's, next to your side that just says, hey, you could do this, man. Like, I believe in you. And then you guys, provide that same energy back to me because I see your guys hustle and your guys striving. So then it's like keeps me running, right? Because you said you're gonna catch me. Yeah. I'm like, not yet.
that's a competitive.
You want to catch me?
Right
not yet.
Everybody in this room.
Gotta go.
Still running. Like,
I gotta go. I still got something in me.
Man,
and it's actually I do it with my kids. Like so, like my younger son Mondo, he plays football and he's just working out maniacally, just like getting strong, So then I go in there with him. I'm like, all right. Here's what we're doing today. It's like we're doing 10 sets of pull-ups, 10 sets of push-ups, 10 sets of dips, and he's just like, man, my arms, but I'm out there just repping them out with him, just trying to just know that, hey, I'm still your dad. And like, yeah, he's going to be stronger than me, of course. And I want him to be. You guys will be more successful than me. I want you to be. But during this time, like, I still want to be able to hang with you guys, because I love the entrepreneurial spirit. Like, I love what you've become. Like and I know what you've already done, and I know what you will become. It's like being part of that journey is so uplifting, right? It creates like so much joy in my life to see other people's success. That's like one of like the greatest feelings for me is like, damn, you won, dude, let's go. Like, I was so happy for you when we won that game. Like, cause I just knew how much it meant. Like, I was just like, man, this, and then every time, you know, he's a humble dude, but like, he talk about Cole. Cause this is, I mean, this blows my mind. This is a 5'4", maybe, 5'4" kid.
Yeah.
That's plays point guard for Doherty Valley. Man, yeah. And playing on Joell's team, he's getting a full ride to college. Yeah. You know, it's like, I mean, think about that story. Like that just doesn't happen. Yeah. Right? And that wasn't going to happen any other place because you gave him the freedom, the confidence to go out and be who he is. And like, I'm so happy for him and for his family. It's just amazing. But there's been countless families that you've just, helped. You just keep your head down. You keep helping more. You start the Infinite Foundation. And I mean, it's just like, why wouldn't I want to be around that?
Yeah, but it's to be in situations like this to shine light on these people. I think that's always the biggest part is like people create businesses or foundations for the sake of their own ego, yeah. But it's like, no, like I don't need all that. Like I've done enough in my life. I'm happy with everything that I've done. I think what's more important is, okay, like how does a guy like Cole get love? Like I'm looking at that like, oh, you think like 5'4" Filipino kid can't make it? No problem. I'm gonna show you how we can do it. I'm gonna show you how we do it. Crazy. And it's like, and then you're gonna laugh about it and be like, it's cool. We're gonna laugh to the bank. We good. Yeah. we saving money over here. I don't know what you doing.
And it's like but that's the kind of kid that every other kid out there is gonna be like, if Cole can do it, I can do it. It's like, and that's what the amazing thing about that is like, if you start seeing kids that I remember when Thomas Loris I was like, he got a scholarship. I was like, he was a good basketball player, but it's just like you start looking at it and then you realize, yeah, he was in the gym every day. He was grinding, putting shots up. He had the right mentality. And so you see what it does take, and it's not what you think.
It's not, I mean, it's just work. Mark Thomas, who's our assistant director, like he says it all the time. It's just work.
It's just work.
There's nothing more. So it goes back to the question about like the dog.
That dog. I was holding this dog in the last 3 minutes. I'm like, dog. I'm about to start barking in a second, right? Yeah, that dog.
I just did you just get dogs?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
That's
it, bro. Like the talent will come out. It's just the confidence of can you be your most authentic self?
And take it as far as you, even something that you can't conceive. How far can you take it? And it makes me think about like leadership, something that all three of you gentlemen all face. And in leadership, it's very lonely. Yeah. It can be very lonely.
Very lonely.
When you're watching the tapes, you're watching probably by yourself. And especially when you're dealing with, because you're a coach to really two groups, to the kids and the parents.
Man, we were going to get into his the way he is with the parents, which I think is also like you just hit on it. So let's talk a little about that. But yeah, interesting. How many kids and parents like in your whole organization? If you added like 2 parents per kid.
2 parents per kid. We got about 60 kids on the basketball side.
On the basketball side, and you have a volleyball program.
We have volleyball,
and you're starting a flag football program.
Yeah, we're trying to think about all them things. Like, yeah, but definitely right now it's volleyball and basketball.
This man's about to be the first billionaire coach.
No, I ain't gonna be no billionaire. But I think but like to still stay in what you were talking about, it's like just dog mentality is what's gonna always help everything.
Every time.
So every time I even having a dog mentality of how to approach each group. Like I don't approach each group as the same type of dog. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a pit bull, but like with a small little bark, especially with them little kids. But with the parents, I look like I'm a Chihuahua, but I'm barking and I'm biting at ankles all day because I'm like, hey, I don't know who you talking to.
Yeah.
I know I'm kind, but boy, I'm coming after you. I'm foaming at the mouth. Ready
DMX reincarnated. Let's hear it, right?
Yeah, ready to eat. So I think that's the thing that. I don't know, like that, and I think that's a fantastic way that you constantly keeping us on that topic of what does it really take to just be successful, and I just feel like it does come to that because I think talent has been documented enough in the world so that we can learn from different people. I think that's the only reason why I go back to the whole talent thing. Now again, there's freak athletes. That's the whole different conversation. I'm sorry, like that's different, but the talent piece is I could pick up a book. I can figure out real estate. I can figure out different industries.
YouTube.
Oh yeah, I can
Right.
YouTube, but how consistent am I being with this? How much?
We've
am I
talked
putting
about this.
myself out there?
Remember
Yeah.
one of the first things I told him about real estate, I was like, I don't care what you do. I was like, you got to start by just like grinding through this shit that you're not going to want to grind through. But that's just like anything. Like anyone could go out and figure some things out, but you're not going to be good at it unless you like go put that time in. So it's like, you got to be like the dog. Like you just got to be like, I'm the one that's going to work a little harder. I'm gonna put the extra effort in when everyone's just, taking the lazy route. Like, oh, I watched this YouTube video. I'm gonna go, buy this piece of real estate. I'm gonna go post a video about it. When Jake's gonna be behind the scenes, just grinding through it. And then it's like 18 months later, you're gonna come out and be like, boom, So
I'm in that season of acknowledging the power of the dog and respecting talent. But I mean, I spent a lot of time with Trey and me and Tom. I've been fortunate enough to spend time with Tom. And let me be very clear: you're a professional, you're a gentleman, you're polite, you are a dog,
got it,
right? And you the nice taper and the sports coat, you wouldn't know it, right? You wouldn't know it, but it's confirmation for me. And I think that we were talking earlier about the passing of your father and going through that process and giving back. And I think they said that hurt people, but then healed people heal people. And part of your growth and growing in your healing, I would suppose, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that a lot of your healing allowed you to do what a hurt person does to another hurt person is you begin to pour into kids and you pour into the youth and you take one of your most important assets, your time, right? And you pour it into kids and the parents, right? And for me, I jumped to leadership because you meet a lot of different leaders in a lot of different spaces.
Yeah.
You're a leader within your business, within your family. You're a leader within your family, within your organization. But I've seen some crappy leaders. And as I've grown into wherever I'm at, and I have a long journey to go, I've learned some of the bad things that bad leaders do, in my opinion. And one of the things that if you really want to be the leader, and most good leaders never pick to be the leader.
That's true. I was, we push kicking and screaming, because it does sometimes feel awkward a little bit because you're like,
It does.
can't, I don't want to be it.
And the people that want to be the leader, the boss, the whatever you call it, the why is very likely why they're a horrible leader. You want to do it for self. The time you allocate or the time you spend with family, friends, me and Trey.
I want the adulation, You're saying what?
Well, just the time that you spend, there's not a return that's being looked for. Is, hey, I want to pour in, and I want to see you in. You just said earlier, I'm running. Yeah. That healthy competition, that healthy energy, that's very, very good. Let you know you're alive. But I want to hit, and forgive me, I just want to get some clarity because you guys can provide it for me. When I look at leadership, for the both of you, what's the two things that you think makes a good leader and maybe one thing that makes a bad?
I mean, for me, it's really empathy is like the most important thing is like to get out of your own self and what you want and what you need as a leader is actually the least important thing. What's the most important thing is the person that you are going to require the most out of. How do they feel? What are they thinking about? What's going on in their life? Are they being challenged? Are they being rewarded? Are their hopes and dreams being met? Because what they're giving back to you is their time, their loyalty, and the potential for you to go be successful, right? So if you're going to take someone's time and their, devotion to your business to, help it be great, the least that you can do is to give back some sort of like sense that you actually really, truly care. And so like, to me, it's like, if you came and wanted to work for me and all you cared about was money, see ya. I don't want you. I don't care about money. Yeah. What I want to know is, hey, do you want to become a great person? Do you want to be part of a family? Do you want to be part of an organization that cares about and we win together and we have a good time together and you can reach your goals financially and reach your goals like personally? Mm-hmm. That's like, it's just empathy, right?
Value.
Set
a price.
Set a price, right? Uh-huh. So that's for me. And the flip side, I think the worst thing you could be as a leader is to have an ego where you don't listen. Mm-hmm. It just be like, oh, it's my way. It's like you got to be open to any sort of change. We make mistakes like everyone else, right? And so it's surrounding yourself with smarter people and being able to listen to them, right?
I think for me, I'd actually use an example of the best leader I've ever been around. Probably David Jones was my boss over at Seneca. It's a guy that
Seneca's a college, right?
Seneca's Seneca Family Agencies is pretty much a nonprofit that helps kids that are adopted, that have been through abuse, just tough situations. They're helping them with.
And you were like a program director there? Or?
Yeah, so I was a supervisor over at Riverview Middle School, so we did that. And so one of the things that I learned from him was just being a great leader is being in the trenches. Someone that doesn't stop doing that. A lot of times people try to stay in that tower, never come down to be a part of the war. And then it's just like he would always be in the front. Whatever the situation was, no matter how muddy it was, no matter what was going on, he was just like, I'm there with y'all. Like,
Dog.
Oh, a complete. Dog. Oh, it was David Jones is probably like the biggest dog ever. Like, and that's a dude that, as a father figure, a guy that believed in me from the jump. He gave me my first job. I mean, I'm being honest. Like, and he was also the same first person that said, "It's time for you to go. You got to go start this infinite thing. Like, I see what you're doing." That was his leadership, and that just
he pushed you to go do it.
Oh, he pushed me. He was like, "No, you can quit. Like, I get it. I got it." You know, it was hard for him. He didn't. That's not what he. Because no person wants to see that because of our relationship. And then I think on the flip side, I think I have to double down with ego. I think ego just makes you stubborn, aka makes you deaf.
Damn.
You know what I mean? It just make you deaf, like
blind.
Deaf, blind, and sometimes mute. Like, so you have to realize that like all these things like just get in the way of it.
Getting away.
Yeah, and so it's like when you put your ego aside, I just think
I love what you said about being in the trenches, because I think that you're right. It's like some leaders, they think it's like, oh, I made it here, so I don't want to mess around with that anymore. Right. But it's like once you forget about all that stuff, then you actually forgot what got you there.
Right.
You know, because the best leaders started there, right? And so because they've been through the whole process, and you don't ever want to leave that, right? Because you're just losing touch.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
Oh, you got me good, right?
Flip the question back to you.
That's the dog. Right? What makes a good leader? Let me start with what makes a bad leader. I think that you got to own it, right? And I'm speaking maybe from a male's perspective, but this could be shared anyway. For me, I always think that as I try to grow as a leader, you got to be a man. What does that mean? You have to stand on the truth, right? You have to be accountable. You got to do, probably most of the time when you're a leader and you're being a man about it, a lot of the times you're doing things that either you don't want to do or that are really, really tough.
Yeah, they don't have any maybe benefit to you, but you just got to grind through it.
There's no benefit to you, right?
A lot of times. I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's because as a leader, you're giving of yourself.
Yeah. That's so those that don't achieve being a man about it or a woman about it, I'm not, whichever side, right? Be that and be the best you can, regardless how, you know, regardless. But in short, yeah, that's just where I'm at. And I think that what makes a good leader, I think that, I don't know that answer yet. Yeah. I'm working on it though.
I mean, it's something I think you learn as you kind of, you know, as you grow, and you just see it, like you just feel it. Like,
I know.
This is,
sorry. I don't want to cut you off. I got it.
Yeah.
I know what makes a good leader.
Okay.
All right. What makes a good leader is, my dad always told me this, before you become a great leader or a good leader, you have to be a great follower.
Huh.
And there's nothing wrong with being a follower if you follow the right coach, if you follow the right mentor, and if you're coachable.
Got to be coachable.
You're not blind. You're not deaf. All right. Mm-hmm. But all of your problems can really be solved if you align yourself with the right people and do what you're supposed to do and be the best follower of that leader you can be. They're going to put you on their shoulders. So, got it.
Yeah. As I think my question back to you is, and it's to both of you, honestly, is how do you like to be led? Because I think that's where we all can kind of sharpen up our answer a little bit more about being leadership.
You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. You know, I do a lot of mentoring, and it's a great joy. But no one really mentors me anymore. And I think it's like, I feel like it's like a void in my life a little bit, because I still want to learn and want to grow. So like, I'm always like searching for ways to do that. And sometimes it's just by going into whole different areas of things that I don't have any idea about. Like, oh, I'm going to go learn about the shoe business, or I'm going to go learn about making wine, or I'm going to go, learn about whatever it is. And so I have the curiosity of me is kind of filling the void of someone that maybe could come in and be like, hey, here's how you could become a better leader. And so, but I think for me, I like honesty is how I like to be led. Like, I don't want someone to say, hey, you're doing a great job if I'm not. I want someone to say, hey, you could do better, in this area, because I think you might need to try this. And it's something that someone that has that experience, right? It's if someone just says, hey, good job, keep it up, keep putting the reps in, it's like, that doesn't get you anywhere. It's like, you want to be told, like, no, you're bad at this, man. You need to go put some time in, and you need to study this and get better at it. So that's how I like to be led. Like, I don't like the rah so much. I don't get too excited about like someone giving me a passionate, like, cause that just like maybe gets me to get ready to go do something for like 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm like, why am I doing this?
Short term.
Right. So it's like, I like someone that says, hey, if you put this work in, you could be here. So it's like, give a more long-term objective.
Okay. And yours?
And give me the question again. That way I'll make sure I answer.
How do you like to be led?
How do I like to be led? You said honesty. I let me say it in short. Whenever I follow a leader, because I always try to be the best follower I can be, right? I just like to follow a leader that when they make a mistake, they stand on it. I did it.
Mm-hmm. Not just be like, oh, you should have done that better.
Yeah.
The person that passes the buck on the failure.
Own it.
That goes back to what you said earlier, because you said what makes a great leader is owning it, being a man. Like, so you basically answered the same way back, is that you like to be led by someone that has those characteristics.
Yeah. All the bad stuff is mine.
Mm-hmm.
All of it.
Not just, hey, we made some money off a deal. Let's party. What about when we don't have a deal? What about when your brother, your coworker, or your partner is going through it? Are we still cool? Yeah. Or are we only cool when it's cool? So for me, those are that dog, because that's really what dogs do. Mm-hmm. Dogs, they're always going to go figure it out.
Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit about real estate, because Joell and I had like a bunch of conversations over the years. Still can't figure it out. He was one of the ones I mentioned to you when we were talking about that student property in Colorado Springs. That we got close on. I wanted to do that. Like, I was like, this is a cool little strategy, right? And so I think, like, for you're trying to get into a new space, and but you've done a lot of house flipping. You've been successful at that, and now you're trying to, like, change your business model a little bit. And so, what sort of like what is it about real estate that you guys find attractive and interesting? Because it's it's not necessarily for you, like you're coaching kids, but what do you love about real estate? Because you've been, from the day I met you, you've always talked about real estate. I don't know if you know this, but like it's always been like in your blood somehow, and for you, you live it and breathe it. So I know it's in yours. So I think there's certain people that like real estate, like, just fascinates them. And so, like, my question for you guys is, what is it that fascinates you about it? Is it the wealth? Is it the idea that it's a physical form? Like, what is it?
I think for me, it's just diversifying my portfolio. Like, I think when I talk to people along the year, that's the beauty behind coaching, is like, I can meet a doctor, a dentist, and whatever, and all of a sudden, if they're like, yeah, but I own like 6 properties, and I'm like, hold up, time out. I swear you was a doctor, but now all of a sudden you a landlord? Like, come on, like, landlord, what's going on here? You a landlord to people? Like, when did that happen? And so now you start learning, like, oh, this is how I got in the game. Went to a little extra money. I got in at the right time. Had some money when there was a crash. And I'm like, oh, shoot, like, that's how y'all got in? Okay. And then I'm peeping like, oh, you got a little 21 unit. Okay. Or you got a little 4-plex, or a little, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here like, you got a little duplex. Okay, hold on, time out. Like,
asset.
Why do y'all keep doing this? Mm-hmm. But it goes back to what we talked about earlier, which was image, and like, what are you trying to do? So once you start having kids, or you're planning to have kids, you got to think, okay, if I lose my job today,
what do I got?
What else can I do? What else do I have? Like, if my kid doesn't have a place to live, I can't just get up out my own house. Do I have something for them? And that's how a lot of people were thinking. So then once you and I had that conversation, and then you started learning what you did, I was like, hold up. Okay. So you started with this little thing. Okay. So this is how you manipulate and move this little thing out your little bank. Okay, cool. Okay, you have to learn a little bit about taxes. You got to learn about if you sell a property, if you don't put it into something else, now you got to pay capital gains. Like I'm learning all these little pieces. I'm like, okay, hold on, time. I'm learning. Like I'm not on it, but I think it's dope. And also, I have a lot of free time now that I don't work at Seneca and do Infinite. It's just Infinite. And I just feel like I want to learn how to do something, to the point of when we talked about the deal from Colorado Springs. Yeah. My mind more went, okay, this is where I went to school.
That, man, I told you.
I know.
I didn't want to push you because I could tell you were a little hesitant. I mean, it's funny. Like, you'll be surprised when we're at work. I'm always the one when it gets close, I'm like, let's do that shit. Because I know that you could overanalyze everything, analysis by paralysis. But it's like, we're negotiating this deal up in the Portland area right now. And, we were doing it. And when we started negotiating, we had nothing else working on. So like, we were kind of like more excited because it's the only deal that we have. Yeah. And then all of a sudden now we got this other deal in Fort Collins, and we're working on this other one up in Seattle. And so it became like the third property. And so we started going back to the seller, trying to work on some stuff. And then they agreed to it all. And then my partners were like, well, we had the other two. I was like, let's buy that shit, because we liked it before. We still like it. At the end of the day, it's all about just not being afraid and just being like, I'm going to get there. I can do anything. I'm going to be successful. So it's like, you got to jump in and do it. But then, and like, you've done enough time and research now, because this has been going on for like 2-3 years. So it's like, when you see if it's a good one. Mm-hmm. And you got to trust your gut. Yeah. Because you're thinking too much. And, I know I get with the wife, they don't want to lose anything, but you're losing if you're not doing.
That's dog, though, what you're saying. Yeah. Because talent says analyze it, and then lean into being conservative, right?
But when you're buying a house, you see right away, I can flip that house. Yeah. You already know, because you've been doing it. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, you have to put in that initial time. Like, you can't just go buy an apartment building just off of LoopNet. Right. Like, you got to put in the time to understand, right? Mm-hmm. But once you do that, you're going to go see it, and you're going to know, and you just got to go do it.
I still think that's that dog you have, because a lot of people get to the line of many things. They do the math, they do the analysis, right? But this is a business, so we understand and respect money. Yeah. But very likely, and correct me if I'm wrong, my observation of you analyze, you do all the homework you're supposed to do, high level. But then also you say, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm. The money comes off the table. Everything else comes off the table. I'm doing it.
My dad said that's my greatest gift, is I'm not afraid to pull the trigger. Like, right. I mean, and I make mistakes. So like, I've done bad investments, but I also have done some amazing ones. And I know that the amazing ones can offset the bad ones, right? But you just got to keep just jumping back in and just get after it, right?
And I think for mine was just the timing too. Was like, it wasn't anything but like, and I think it goes back to like the real estate questions. Like, I'm putting 2 and 2 together. Like, if I'm getting all these kids out to college, and they're going to all these different cities and states and all this stuff.
How many kids at college?
I mean, just like this year by itself, I believe we have 5 or 6. There was one year that we had 11.
It's amazing.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, when you start adding up the numbers and you seeing where they're living.
How many programs put out that many kids that your size? That's like none.
I think it's very limited. But I'm
gonna gas you up a little bit.
I know, but as weird as I'm gonna be, like, I don't really care what nobody else does. Mm-hmm. Like, because they're running their own race. It's their perspective. They believe they're doing the right thing. Yeah, and I respect the hell out of that. Yeah. And I'd rather people do things like that. But for us, I'm focused on us. And if it ain't broke, I ain't trying to fix nothing. Like, and it's working. And so I think that's what real estate for me is. The next step is just figuring out where everybody's going to school. And then start learning around the area. And like I said, the Colorado Springs one was because I went to school there. One of my good friends is the athletic director there. And so there is now this understanding of like, what do you need? You're growing as a school. How can I help? Oh man, if you had a property, that would be great. Now we can put these
see, that's a scalable strategy. It's like, it's like he has all these kids going to school. So then you start learning about new schools, and you go look at those schools. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool around here. Like, I'll buy a property. And then you get to know the athletic directors, and you're providing like student housing for kids that are, and they're multi-unit properties, So, I mean, I told you, I'm in. You know,
and I'm a weirdo. Like, I like kids that party and have fun. Like, I know some landlords be like, "Oh my god," but I'm like, dude, like they're in college. Like, like they're not going to destroy your house. Just communicate, and there'll be a level. It's going back to leadership. Like, if I'm a person that's just completely hands off and I never pay attention and I never communicate with my tenants, like, I feel like, okay, cool. Like, they're going to feel like, oh, this ain't my house. I can care less. I'm going to put a hole in it. But when I'm communicating, I'm trying to get to know them. Hey, man, like, how can I help with groceries? Do you guys need help on anything? Like, oh, you want to have a dog? Okay, let me see what the dog is like. Can I get you a trainer? When you start thinking like that, you start doing it. And I think that's the difference. That's something that I'm learning with, not only with real estate, but also in the business is, if I keep thinking about it as a business, I'll never grow. But when I think about my business as customer service, I think that's why it's grown the way it has. Oh yeah, and I think that's why, like, we're at this point where Tom trusts me and I trust Tom, like, blindly. Like, I swear to you, something ever happened to me, I know he's got my family's back. Something ever happened 100%. To him, he knows I got his family's back. But I think, like, it just comes down to customer service. It didn't come down to the business. It didn't come down to basketball. No. It's how I treated his son. And then I saw how he treated my family. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, we could rock together. And so it's the same thing as I see everybody else in this room. I'm like, okay, Tom rocks with y'all. Y'all ever need something? Just a phone call. Like, y'all don't even have to think twice about it. Like, I love that about that. So, I mean, that's why real estate just, like I said, it just brings a bunch of different people into this whole mix.
I think everyone understands it, which is I like about real estate is, like, you know, people get like, oh, you have that building, that's a good investment. Like, almost everyone almost always thinks that, right? No one, if you said, hey, I invested in this, they'd be like, oh, why'd you do that? But if you say, oh, I got this apartment building, like, damn, that's pretty cool. Like, it's just a common thing that people think is a good investment, and I think it's the number one way that, you know, people grow wealth in this country is through investing in real estate. So.
Let me add a piece, because you were asking.
How we doing on time? We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
You asked about
15.
The real estate component, and so I'll give you the short of it, because we're talking about basketball, and my three greats, probably not who you guys would be, like Kobe and LeBron, and my three greats were Jason Williams.
Okay. LeBron is not on my list, by the way. I'm sorry.
For sure.
Okay.
So who? Jason Williams.
Okay.
White chocolate?
Come on.
Okay.
He's number one on my list, actually.
You keep continuing. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Steve Francis.
Okay, I'm still listening.
And now Allen Iverson.
Yeah, AI.
Guard heavy. Top three.
Look at Jake. I mean, he's a slender guard.
Top three.
Seriously. Well, and when you say who I probably understood the level of communication from, because they're distributors, right? And I learned in my business to share.
I like this question. I'm gonna ask you this. I'm gonna give you mine.
I like where you go with this.
Right.
Because I feel like there's gonna be some comments of some hate, but I love it.
For sure.
You are giving me some great things. Please continue.
They're all distributors, right? And so it takes a team. That's number one. And then I think that when I looked at those athletes in particular, you have to have sauce. You got to have style, right? And I just believe in style in everything you do, right? And whether it's passing or shooting, whatever it is. Penetrating
or dressing,
I don't, braids, fades, waves, whatever you want. And then I think back to the question about that's a good catch. You should have been a receiver. When I think about the question of real estate and you know, what do I think about it and the way I scale it, it's very similar to those three. That you do want to pick a style, right? That's complementary to where maybe you receive the game of basketball.
That's a very good point, actually.
I didn't think about it like that.
Pick a style,
and
that's your lane,
that you like, and then it becomes easier.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
Okay.
That's actually such a good way to put it. Like, it's your style. Yeah. You got to do it your way.
You have to do it your way. So, go please.
I was to say I wholeheartedly agree with you.
It makes it very easy for me. When I got into real estate early on, I never was even looking into real estate. And when I said earlier, and I stand by it, you know, before you become this great leader, because leaders have great responsibility. Yeah. And right now, finding a mentor that's exploring some of the things you're overcoming, very hard to find them as you grow as a leader. Yeah. And the path becomes very lonely. The road of leadership is a very lonely path, right? And so as I grew into real estate, I got introduced to single family, and then I got introduced to flipping early on, and I became a flipping junkie. I loved it, but see, the person I was following, the leader that was in front of me, I watched everything he taught me, Didn't ask too many questions, no whys, but just I'm watching, and then made it my own. Put my own style on it, right? He may not be. I'm buying everything in the ghetto, right? And I'm making friends in the ghetto. You know, I'm the mayor of the ghetto of one of these cities, for real, right?
That's what he was saying.
No, maybe in his career too, the area and the finances that he had, he was buying location-based product. Well, I couldn't buy that, right? But I'm getting in. I'm not going to wait. So everything that I was buying was probably on the lower end in more challenged neighborhoods. But then I grew to like that, and it matched my style, right? Being amongst some people that probably I communicated with well.
Yeah.
And then as I continued to grow in real estate, I'll be honest with you, residential got real stale to me because it never was about the money. You make money, but I just loved doing that thing because I followed a leader. And I followed to a T, but put my Jason Williams on. Got him, right?
Yep.
So I remember me and my good partner, Trey, he called me one day. He kept calling my phone. I'm busy, man. I'll call you back, right? He said, man, I met this phenomenal guy today, man. He's in the multifamily. And he just gave me a little synopsis of him. But he said, man, the guy is so down to earth. He's so humble. You wouldn't even notice this. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll call you back. I'm in the South Side flipping some property, man, with the people, right?
Yeah.
And that progressed. Then I had the opportunity to connect with this guy Tom. And Trey was like, multifamily. Tom said, yeah, multifamily. I'm like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is the ghetto. We buying property for cheap. We're flipping them.
Yeah.
And you get to meet a person. You take the real estate. You take the money off the table, right? Do they own it? All their things. Do they own it? How do they treat people? Are they facilitators, right? Mm-hmm. How is their leadership? Oh, okay, that's cool. This might be a cool person just to connect with. And then at some later point, you start diving into the concepts of multifamily just by happenstance. Follow the leader, right? And so that's, for me, you said how I kind of got to where I'm at in my relationship with real estate. It's cool. You make money in real estate. You get to keep assets. But I'm having a lot of fun growing into my style, doing different things that challenge me. If I don't like it and challenge me, I probably won't do it, right? Like mowing the lawn, I probably won't do it. But if I like it, it could be hard to others and I'll still do it. So as I grew into it, and then I was able to spend time with a great leader, right? It's still not about money. It's still not about real estate. It's about, hey, this thing is pretty cool. And I know somebody that's doing it. Yeah. Let me try to do it and put my style on it, right? Yeah. I don't know. He's building some multi-families in this city or that city. I'm like, man, look, I might build one in the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean. I don't know. Put my style on it, right? Yeah. That's fun. And then look at the people you get to connect with. You and I, we're masterminding right now. I never would have been blessed enough to, go eye to eye with you.
Yeah.
I think that's why I do like, so you had he did his own style because he wasn't like, I'm going to go flicks and flip a house up in my neighborhood. He figured out his own unique business idea. And as soon as you told me that, I said I was in. Remember, it was right away because I was like, that's smart. And it's a competitive advantage, right? Yep. You had something that no one else has, which is one, connection with the athletic directors, two, understanding what schools are going because you're seeing the kids go into it. Because most people, they're seeing like one piece of information. You're getting this whole picture and like, aha. Then it's like, go.
Yeah, because that's what I learned. I was like, when you talking about your own little style on it, it's also understanding like, I'm not the greatest like at researching, so I know that, but I'm also, when it goes to like the top 3 type of thing, it's like LeBron, Steph,
Kobe,
Steph,
but like Kevin Garnett.
That's my 3. Give me yours.
Kobe, Steph, Kevin Garnett.
See, like mine's like LeBron, Steph, and probably like, I'm gonna be weird, but like a Reggie Miller is up there, and I'm just
my best friend growing up was a Reggie Miller.
Yeah, and that's like I like Reggie Miller. I don't know what it was. Like I liked how he always had to go against hell.
Yeah,
and he was just they were trendsetters in their own way. But I think for me, it's guys that they had that dog mentality on and off the court. Like LeBron, I get it. He gets all the hate. But one thing I got to respect about the dude is off the court, the dude was like, I'm going to be a billionaire. Like, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to be different. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I have no respect for that.
I mean, he's a good basketball player. I just don't like the antics. Like,
it's
that's
fine. I can live with the antics. Like, I'm not saying like I'm rooting for the Lakers, but overall, you got to look at it from like, all right, if I started my career from ground zero. I literally would follow everything LeBron just did because
I mean, he was smart about the marketing piece. Like genius.
I mean, there was not one bad thing that man has ever done. Steph, and there ain't one bad thing that man has ever
That's crazy
done.
too.
You know what I mean?
On the business side, yeah.
And you got to think about that. And so for me, I follow those. Like those two are just like, dang, dude, like.
You embody those style. You embody those styles and those avatars.
I mean, it's kind of crazy, like how you look up to athletes because you realize if you've played any sports, you realize what these guys have gone through,
right?
And you could find so much leadership out of like, I mean, Kobe is like the leadership of his like work ethic is what I always remember. Like he was trying to be MJ, which was impossible. You can't be him, right?
Was dedicated to it though.
But dedicated to it. Like I will be Michael Jordan.
Crazy.
Like, crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I always think you have to have, in order to be at the top, you got to be a little maniacal. Like you gotta be a little
Agreed.
Like, I'm just
I like that.
off.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Go back to like you said, to your personality. You said you're more like a.
Well, okay. I give you the word too. See, because like those three.
I mean, Jason kind of he like all of a sudden I showed him my house, and it's like I mean, in my office, and he like bought me a pair of like Gucci Sperry's, and I was like, all right, man, I love mentoring this guy.
You my guy, man. I appreciate you. Yeah.
No, but I can see it. I see how it fit. And now that we say that out loud, and I'm hearing your people, I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. Like your top three is more dog mentality. I'm a killer. Like I'm gonna go
like
get
KG.
it done.
Like Kevin Garnett is like, I'm gonna go get shit done.
Like I don't care what you think.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, and you could probably see like a little bit of that comes out in Andres because like when he was a kid, I was like, if you're not the most talented, you're going to be the most physical and you're going to make your presence on the court.
Yeah.
And so like, and that just translates to like still making an impact, right? Because a lot of people don't think defense is sexy, right? But Kevin Garnett, man, you coming in the paint,
no, it is a real
you're
deal.
leaving. You're leaving with a
look,
scar.
The KG, dope athlete, but he keeps some hitters around him. Even Paul Pierce, get him in a lot of trouble. He keeps them around him and try to groom them. Paul Pierce, chill out, man. Shh, right? But you keep a diverse, colorful, diverse amount of people around you where you can pour into them and you can extract out of them. When I think about my three, I just thought those guys were nasty with the dribble, nasty with the pass, and you take the money off the table, right? Because LeBron's made some great money. I think he's a great player too.
Yeah.
But when we take the money off the table, Iverson told him, practice. Practice, because when you look at it, what's really important from a leadership standpoint or individual standpoint, yeah, business is important, but when you said you have Tom's back and he has your back, okay, I'm getting this money, I'm making these moves. And then when you call me, okay, that's off the table. Always. And so when I see leadership, now let me go back to that leadership question. I've had leaders who I thought were great leaders when no matter what, they had to keep that money on the table. And that's cool because everybody gets to make their own choice. There's just been times where people, and not me receiving the money, I just think that people should be more important, or there might be other things. So when you pour into kids or you pour into me, Tom, and so many other individuals, money is important, growth is important. But for me, with those distributors and Iverson and Jason Williams, love the game, that dog, nasty, and we're going to make money, we're going to make some success, but practice, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, and I think for me, it's like, that's why, for me, like a LeBron and a Steph, it's like, I think their game gets, they get a lot of love. Like, let's not be fake about it. They both get so much global love, but I think they're one and the same.
That's number one now.
I know,
Olympics.
but I think we're all in the same, and I think they embody me more because I'm just like, okay, how can I help the people around me? Like, how can I get these other people that are around me, get them a job? How can I help them put money in their pocket? Like, I think
that's what it's
and
about.
That's the thing. That's why I really like about LeBron. Like, LeBron was always thinking about, like, how do I go get this bread right? But then I'm gonna make sure I employ you and employ you. Yeah. Derrick Rose, same way when he did it. Like, Derrick Rose, honestly, is really should be in my top three over Reggie Miller because of the simple fact of, all his brothers till this day, Adidas takes care of him.
Yeah. Like,
for me, he employed the people around him, and I think like that to me is like true leadership. That's true. That's just being a dog. That's a dog to me. It's just like, listen, oh, you really want me that bad? You're gonna take care of this person, this person, this person. Deal or no deal. And it's like, dang, you just pushed the room. You pushed the envelope. Like, damn, like, you know, and I know for other people.
That's smart, though, but it's also, he understood when he had leverage.
Oh, yeah, and he used it.
And used it.
The right way.
That's just being a good business person.
I agree because I think about, since we're at it, like Michael Vick and even Iverson, right? You do, and that's my question to the both of you. You do, as you grow, something I'm struggling with right now. As you grow, you do have to set new boundaries, right?
Yeah, the dream has to be. I think the dream has to be a moving target. You know, the goal has to be a moving target, and you have to understand when you've gotten too close to that boundary that you got to push. And sometimes that push has to come within. Sometimes that push could come from a friend, but you have to, or else, you know, it's like, or else you're just shutting it down because you get to that point. If you stop, then everything erodes. And there is no stasis that is going to work. Like, can't you just like get to this point? I'm just going to stay good forever.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to keep working. You got to keep pushing, you know, and it is, I mean, for me, that's how I think about it is like,
I like that.
That's why you guys been pushing me a little bit like this. I've been corporate rebranding. I've been like thinking about like image, like thinking about like, you know, I'm like, hey, I gotta get out there and just push myself. Like if I'm going to stay in business, then I got to get better.
Right.
I think boundaries also comes down to, and I listen to that, but I think the one thing that we don't talk about, especially as men, is sanity. Like the boundaries around the sanity, even in your business. Like what in your business keeps you sane? And like I said, like I just was driving, talked about it. I like training kids that are like in the 4th and 5th grade, can barely walk and chew gum. I just find excitement because I'm like, this is a blank canvas, and I get to like we get to work on it.
You said it earlier, like you just kind of nip at them a little bit, so you don't expect as much out of them. So you have a different. You walk into it just saying like, hey, whatever we paint is going to be a beautiful picture.
Absolutely.
And you don't know where it's going to be. So remember, you said, I got to find my heart. We were talking about this the other day. You said, my heart's not in this, but now you're finding it.
Oh yeah,
which I love for you.
I love that. So
we got like 2 minutes left. I'll just probably wrap it up, man. It's like, I learned so much today, just like, you know, hearing about, I loved hearing about the origin of infinite mindset, because I'm going to take that away and just remember, you know, those are like just amazing like things to just apply to your life, you know. And Jake, always love sitting here with you. It's you got a lot of love and joy to give to the world. So it's like, just thank you guys for taking a little time out of your day.
I appreciate it. I should have worn a collared shirt though. I should have known one time for the one time, but I appreciate y'all.
I mean, he actually surprised me. I didn't think he was going to come, so he just like walked through the door, and I thought it was you, and I was like. And actually, Andres was going to be here for like 15 minutes because he was going to like get on the camera, and like, but he had to leave. He had a PT with
it's all good.
Jason. So, anyways, thank you guys. See you next time.